Hey everyone, welcome to Zack Attack Reviews. Thank you for joining me for my review of The Last of Us Episode 6. After the last week's episode that was action-packed and so exciting, I knew we were due for a slower, more toned-down, emotional episode. I'm going to break down the good, I'm going to break down the bad, and tell you my overall thoughts about episode title Hidden. And before I break down the good and the bad, just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you can notify my reviews, reactions, and ranking lists. Let's get into it. It's 3 months after the death of Henry and Sam, and we can see that Joel and Ellie's bond has become more robust. They're more comfortable with each other. We can see Joel joking around with her and really accepting her for her personality and not trying to just shush her all the time. Caused us to get a lot of comedic moments. Bella Ramsey does the comedy for Ellie so good. She plays the 14-year-old really well. Sometimes I forget that she's a 14-year-old. And I think that personally encompasses Ellie from the game, because you forget that she's a kid sometimes in the game because she's doing all this killing and seeing all this craziness until she gets into a situation where she sees something and she's like, cool, or asking certain questions. I think that she captures all that really well, and it helps that she looks so young despite being 19. Some of the best moments from the game are just Joel and Ellie being around each other and talking, and Ellie asking questions, trying to get him to open up and get to know more of him. And they do a lot of that. Other than the comedic moments, we have a lot of tender moments in this episode. And my favorite part was the whole contractor thing. He said, yeah, everybody loved contractors. And she was like, that's so cool. And she already probably thought he was the coolest dude in the world because how strong and resourceful he is. But that just took it up to another level. And for a 14-year-old, you having a title that sounds dope is everything. You just forget those kind of things that kids are into. And I really love that they leaned on that. And with him accepting her and more and everything, I was surprised to see him reprimand her because he falls asleep while he's supposed to be doing watch and she doesn't wake him up. Tells her, don't do that again. And I thought that this was just initially him being strict, but you find out later it's much deeper than that. Something that they get to do in this show that they couldn't do in the game, because obviously it's a video game and you can't touch on everything in a character. But, Joel is like a 55-year-old man. And all these years living this apocalypse with all these infected and people who want to take advantage of you, he's being affected by his age, the wear and tear of all these battles and everything he's been doing, the PTSD he has from Sarah's death. And his hearing is shot. He doesn't move as fast as he did 5 years ago. He's not as quick and as efficient as a fighter as he used to be. And he's starting to feel like he might not be able to protect Ellie at all times. So that theme ties into the main crux of the episode. Joel and Ellie finally make it to Jackson after having a little bit of a situation with some of the residents there. And he sees Tommy. So Joel, going through all this stuff and being the older brother, he aged like milk. Super gray, all the lines in his face as he possibly can. His knees are hurting him, probably back hurting him. And Tommy looks a lot younger, inspired, because he's been living a simpler life. Jackson is this sprawling community that has movies and television and hot water and clothes and cattle and all this stuff that you could possibly wish for in this type of environment that you're in. So he has less worries. He's not only depending on himself, and Joel says he wants Tommy to take Ellie off his hands. He feels like it would be a better situation if Ellie was with Tommy. He's younger, he's faster, he knows the land better, and he feels like he can protect her better. And I like that they changed this a bit from the game, because in the game it felt like Joel was just being a selfish asshole, because obviously all those things are kind of there with Joel in the game, but it's a video game, so you're playing Joel. He has to be able to fight. You can't slow him down. There's so much intense situations in the game that you wouldn't be able to do it when you're doing this type of storyline with this character. So it just made more sense, and you have more empathy for Joel this time around, because you know what he's going through mentally and physically. And the juxtaposition of that is Ellie. Bella Ramsey's performance was really great. She was very comedic in a lot of the things that she did, and obviously her cursing all the time as a kid is always funny, but you can see her asking questions to Joel throughout the episode, trying to figure out what her level or what her place in his life is. Does he see a future where she is in it? And as they get closer and closer to finding Tommy, you can see the fear and her getting shaken up of him abandoning and ditching her for his brother. And when they finally get there, she does a great job of displaying that fear in her face and getting scared of the normalcy that this life is bringing, and Joel getting too comfortable there and not paying her attention anymore. In episode 5, she mentioned to Sam that her fear is to be left alone, and that abandonment is just really throughout the episode, and it culminates into a classic moment from the game where Joel and Ellie have a conversation about him handing her off to Tommy, and Ellie just telling him, like, I understand the loss that you went through, and I've been through loss as well, and you're the only person that has not left me behind until now. And you're the one that I trust. And anybody else, I'll have all the fear in the world. And I thought that was performed very perfectly. But I think Joel's reaction to it was initially because she brings up his daughter Sarah, something that she didn't know until now, and it just made sense for him to be like, I'm ditching you. I told you not to touch that line, to compare yourself to her, and you did it anyway. I don't want nothing to do with you. Eventually, Joel, after a night of thinking it over, he comes around and they reunite, and it really brings the bond of them two together really well. And I like the way they executed that. In the game, they did this thing where Ellie runs away and Tommy and Joel have to go after her and fight some infected and things like that. And that would have been really cool. And there's like a lot of other action sequences that happened at Jackson that they didn't do here. That would have been really cool. But I like that they went for the emotional moment here and just having Joel turn around and going like, yeah, okay, I care about you. I do want to be there for you. I'm going to give you the choice. And obviously she's going to choose Joel 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times. And she does just that. Some little things about this episode that I really, really enjoyed. The little old couple that Joel and Ellie ran into the beginning of the episode, they were so sweet, so adorable, so wholesome, and so funny. And they need to be protected at all costs. I hope raiders or infected never see them or never come around them, because they're lucky they ran into Joel and Ellie, because Joel's not trying to just take everything and kill them. Hopefully they don't run into some more people who are less crazy, or like somehow Tommy gets them and bring them in. I'm just so invested in this old couple all of a sudden. And I love that seeing Ellie interact with so many other human beings in a more of a normal everyday society, and how out of place she felt because she's so used to the QZ and being just not in a normal environment and not be able to interact with other kids in a normal way, and her feeling like this is not for me. She feels like she needs to be out there with Joel, living that harsher life, and that's the type of environment she's comfortable with, and it would be hard for her to adjust. I like that little detail that they put in there and showcasing it throughout the episode. And through a visionary standpoint, like a artsy standpoint, I love that the director, when they were initially traveling and trying to find their way, the shots were a little bit more colder, more paler, and then as they came together towards the end and they're traveling, trying to go to the fireflies, the sun and the flowers and the nature and everything was a little bit warmer, was used to showcase that things are warming up, things are getting a little bit better between them. And I thought that was really great, and I noticed it. There was a lot of great shots in this episode. Let's talk about the bad. So, as I've said in many of my reviews of each episode, I feel like they're lacking in the action sequences. Other than episode 1 and episode 5, I feel like they have either skipped or dumbed down a lot of the set pieces. And I understand that they're choosing atmosphere, character work, and the story over action, and I appreciate that. But there's some iconic action sequences that I'd love to see, because I want to see that adapted as well. And most of the time, I'm not bothered by it, especially after episode 5 was actually insane. But they did go to a certain action sequence that happens in the game, and the way it was performed and executed was kind of lame, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie, I was really disappointed. There was not like a big fight or struggle, and the thing that happens to Joel at the end where he gets hurt was just done in a lot lamer way than it was in the game. And I understand they have to tone it down, but this was toned down way too much. And part of The Last of Us, obviously, is a story about two people or multiple people in the apocalypse trying to survive and find love, and how love is supposed to persevere and all that kind of stuff. And that's the story that Neil Druckmann is trying to tell. But part of the game was also talking about that struggle of living life and the depravity that comes with it, and some of the things that they both had to do us as gamers and the characters to do to survive and get to the next point. And I feel like they're completely kind of like missing out on that aspect and that juxtaposition of finding that love, but what you have to do to keep it safe. Let's get into my verdict. So despite the soft ending, I really enjoyed this episode. Ellie and Joel's bonding was much needed. This is something that we haven't gotten yet because it's, so much focus on so much other things, but we're finally there with them. I really enjoyed Jackson and seeing that brought to life, and I love seeing the Gabriel Luna as Tommy. I think he was perfect as the character, and his conversations with Joel were just the right amount of intense, but also just loving at the same time. So throughout the whole episode, I had a smile on my face because of the comedic moments and some of the tense moments and some of those more heartfelt moments. It was a really good emotional ride throughout. So I'm going to give this episode a B. Why do you think that this episode was called that? Drop those comments down below. Let me know how you feel about the episode overall. And like the video if you like my review. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of my reviews, reactions, ranking lists, and live discussions. And you can watch more of my content right now.